She texted me out of nowhere, said she wanted closure. Just one final conversation. After everything she put me through, part of me wanted to ignore it, but something about her message felt ... rehearsed. Like the beginning of a script she'd already written, so I agreed to meet. But I picked the place. And I didn't go alone. Because deep down I knew this wasn't about healing. It was a setup. I'd seen the signs before, how she twisted the truth, how she played the victim. I was done being blindsided, so I brought protection. Not a weapon, a witness, someone who would hear every word. Because this time I wasn't going to defend myself with emotion. I was going to defend myself with facts. What happened next proved everything I feared. And when her plan fell apart, she tried to flip the story one last time, but it was too late. The truth was already out, and all I had to do was press play. It started with a message. Simple, harmless on the surface. Just 5 words. Can we talk one last time? I stared at it for a while, trying to figure out what I was feeling. Annoyed, suspicious, curious. The truth is, I didn't even know. We hadn't spoken in months, not since the breakup, not since the chaos, and certainly not since she tried to twist things in her favor after it ended. But there it was, a message out of nowhere, like a ghost knocking on your window at midnight. You don't want to answer, but your mind starts racing anyway. I didn't reply right away. I scrolled up through our last texts full of fights, accusations, long paragraphs that meant nothing in the end. The kind of texts where everything feels dramatic in the moment, but when you read them later, it's just noise. Pain echoing between people who should have let go long before they did. Still, the words stuck with me. One last time. The next morning, I did what anyone with an ounce of common sense probably wouldn't do. I replied, "What for?" She answered almost instantly, "Closure. That's all." Closure. That word. It sounds reasonable, right? Like something adults ask for when they've healed and just want to tie things up in a neat little bow. But when it comes from someone who once tried to destroy your name behind your back, it doesn't feel like closure. It feels like bait. Still, I'll admit, part of me wondered if this was her way of finally owning up to what she did. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe I asked her where she wanted to meet. She said, "Anywhere you feel safe." That should have been a red flag. Why did she feel the need to say that? I didn't respond right away. I sat with it for a while. Thought about the way she used to manipulate conversations, how she'd twist things, cry in public, turn people into props to get sympathy. She was clever to clever, and I wasn't about to be caught off guard again. That's when I made the decision, if I was going to do this, I'd do it on my terms. So I replied, "Let's meet at my friend's coffee shop. It's quiet, not too busy." She agreed, said she'd be there, even added a little smiley face at the end. Like none of it was a big deal, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Something about the timing, the wording, the softness in her tone didn't add up. Not from her. That night I called my friend Lucas, the guy who owns the shop, and told him everything. "Dude," he said, "you sure you even want to go through with this?" I said, "No, but I need to. I need to know if this is real or another setup." Lucas didn't hesitate. "I got you. I'll keep the place under control. And if anything goes sideways, you'll have eyes and ears everywhere." And then I called my lawyer.al. That's how much I didn't trust her. He didn't even sound surprised when I explained the situation. "I'll come," he said. "Just sit a table away. You don't have to say a word. Let her talk. If she tries anything stupid, we'll have it all recorded." I didn't sleep that night. I kept playing out different versions of what might happen. Maybe she just wanted to say sorry. Maybe she'd spin a new lie. Maybe she'd scream in the middle of the cafe and accuse me of something right there on the spot the next morning. I got dressed like I was preparing for court.com on the outside. But my mind wouldn't shut up. I kept thinking, why now? Why this week? Why not months ago? People don't reach out for closure when they're finally healing. They reach out when they're still bleeding and looking for someone else to blame. And knowing her, blame was always her favorite language. I sat there waiting, 10 minutes early, my lawyer a few feet behind me with his laptop open and a tiny recorder in his pocket. Lucas gave me a quick nod from behind the counter. The atmosphere was quiet, almost calm, and then she walked in, same perfume, same calculated look of calm on her face. She smiled like nothing had happened, like we weren't sitting on a pile of unresolved wreckage. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, setting her bag down slowly. I nodded but said nothing, and just like that, it began. I didn't know what she was going to say, but I already knew this wasn't about closure. This was something else, and I was ready for it. There's a kind of instinct that kicks in when you've been burned before. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's just this quiet feeling in your gut telling you to stay sharp. And that's exactly what I felt the second she said she wanted to meet. I told her we should meet somewhere public. I said it like I was being casual, like I just preferred cafes over awkward conversations in private places. But truthfully, I didn't feel safe. Not emotionally, not legally, not in any way. She replied, "Of course. Whatever makes you feel comfortable." It was too easy, too agreeable, and that just made it worse. I picked my friend Lucas's coffee shop for a reason. It wasn't just because I knew the place. It was because I trusted the people in it. Lucas had security cameras installed, working audio, and a small private booth off to the side where voices carried but not too loud. I told him I'd be there with someone, and I needed him to keep an eye on things. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Got it." But I didn't just bring Lucas into this. I called my lawyer Thomas. I told him everything. Every text. Every word she used. He didn't laugh. He didn't tell me I was being paranoid. He said, "You're doing the right thing, I'll be there." He showed up 10 minutes before she was due to arrive. Sat at a table behind me, out of view. Didn't bring a briefcase or wear a suit. Just looked like another guy working on his laptop. But in his pocket was a voice recorder. Nothing hidden, nothing illegal. Just a backup, in case things turned sideways, and honestly I was preparing for sideways. Because the truth is, people like her, people who lie easily, who spin stories, they don't just show up to apologize. They show up to play the next move. I sat at the table, coffee in hand, trying to calm my nerves. She was 5 minutes late, then 10, then 15, and just when I thought maybe she bailed, I saw her through the window. She walked in like she owned the room. Same perfectly styled hair, same soft expression she used when she wanted people to feel sorry for her. She spotted me, smiled, and made her way over with a practiced kind of grace. "Hey," she said, setting her purse down gently. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare." I nodded but didn't say much, just motioned for her to sit. She looked around. "Nice place. You come here often?" I said. "It's a friend's shop." She smiles. "Oh, thank you for agreeing to meet." I didn't answer that either. I just let her talk. That was the plan. Don't engage emotionally. Don't give her anything she can twist. Just let her say whatever she came to say. She took a breath, then launched into it. "I've just been thinking a lot," she said. "About us, about how everything ended." I nodded slowly, still silent, and I realized maybe I didn't handle things the right way. I was hurt, and when people are hurt, they act out. That part almost made me laugh. Act out, that's what she called filing a false complaint against me, telling mutual friends I was controlling and dangerous. I bit my tongue and let her continue. She kept going, saying things like, "I just want us both to move on in peace, and there's no point in carrying anger." It all sounded so reasonable, but her tone didn't match her words. She was watching me too closely, measuring my reactions, waiting for something specific. That's when she shifted gears. She said, "But if we can't find peace today, I don't know what I'll do." And just like that, the air changed. I leaned back. "What does that mean?" She gave this tiny, shrugged. "Just that things are complicated. People talk. Things get misunderstood. And if we can't agree today that what happened between us stays between us, well, that's not good for either of us." There it was. Got the threat. Wrapped in soft language, but clear as day. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. I just said, "That's interesting, because I brought someone with me today, just in case there were any misunderstandings." She tilted her head. "Someone?" "My lawyer," I said calmly. "He's right over there." Her eyes darted behind me. I didn't even have to turn around to know she saw him, and for a second, just a second, I saw the mask slip. She blinked hard, then laughed. "You're kidding." "No," I said, "I'm not." She shifted in her seat. "Why would you bring a lawyer to a conversation about closure?" "Because I've seen what closure looks like with you," I said, "and I'm not stupid enough to walk into it unprotected." She looked down, then back at me. "So you think I came here to trap you?" I didn't answer that. I just picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, and said, "Why don't you go ahead and say what you came to say? We're listening." She didn't speak for a while after that, and I knew, in that silence, this wasn't going the way she planned. She must have realized the walls were closing in, because right after I mentioned my lawyer, her entire demeanor shifted. Gone was the calm, collected version of her I saw earlier. She sat in silence for maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like hours, and then out of nowhere she burst into tears. Loud, dramatic sobs that turned every head in that cafe. She covered her face and said, "I can't believe you'd do this to me. After everything we've been through. You really think I'm a monster?" People around us started whispering. I could feel the eyes. That was the whole point, I think. She knew exactly how to turn a scene in her favor. I'd seen it before. How she could twist reality so fast, people didn't even realize it was happening. But not this time. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just kept my eyes on her and waited. She slammed her hands down on the table. "Tell them what you did. Tell everyone here how you used me and tossed me away." The drama, the volume, the trembling voice. It would have worked like magic if I didn't have the truth in my corner. I said nothing, just motioned slightly behind me. That's when Thomas, my lawyer, stood up and walked forward, calm as ever. He placed his phone on the table, screen facing her. "I've been recording this conversation," he said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, "for your protection and my clients." She froze, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. The silence that followed was the loudest moment of the entire afternoon. Then she laughed. But it was shaky, forced. "Oh, you brought backup," she said, "because you're scared of the truth." Thomas didn't even flinch. He tapped the screen again where the app was still recording. "Actually, I brought backup because I know how this story goes, and I've advised my client to stay silent until this recording is reviewed in court, should it come to that." She stood up fast, almost knocked over her chair. "This is harassment," she yelled. "You're trying to trap me. You ambushed me." But the thing was, no one was believing her anymore. Not with the recording in plain sight. Not with the way she was unraveling right there in front of everyone. Lucas came out from behind the counter, too. He didn't say much, just stood near the door with his arms crossed. A quiet signal that she was no longer in control, and I just sat there watching it all happen, my hand still on my coffee cup, my heart beating like a war drum in my chest. She pointed at me one last time. "You'll regret this." I looked her in the eye and said, "I already have." It was like the final thread snapped. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, but the fallout wasn't over. Within an hour, Thomas had emailed me the full recording. He also confirmed that the cafe's security cameras had captured everything: her outburst, her threats, the way she tried to spin the narrative. And that's when I knew I had enough to protect myself, enough to prove that I wasn't crazy, but more than that, enough to finally be free of her version of the truth. Later that night, I played the recording back. Hearing her voice from that perspective, removed from the heat of the moment, was surreal. There were so many little manipulations tucked into her tone. The way she would pretend to be calm, only to escalate seconds later. The way she baited me with guilt and pity, hoping I'd say something, anything, that she could use, but I didn't. And for once, I was proud of that. I called my parents. I told them everything. Not just about the cafe meeting, but the months of emotional manipulation, the false rumors, the legal threats, the nights I spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if I really was the villain she painted me to be. My mom cried. My dad said, "We're just glad you didn't face it alone." And that hit me harder than anything, because for so long I felt alone in it. But sitting in that cafe, backed by a friend, a lawyer, and the truth, I finally wasn't. That moment when her story fell apart. It wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about reclaiming my voice, my sanity, my peace. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally getting it back. I had a pit in my stomach the moment I saw her walk in. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, how she walks into a room like she owns it. Like she's already won whatever battle you didn't even know you were fighting. But that day, it felt different. She walked in wearing this calm, polished smile, the kind of smile that hides a blade. Thomas sat across from me already, calm, composed, holding his phone casually in his hand like he was just checking emails. But I knew he'd already hit record the moment she stepped through that door. She slid into the seat beside me and gave this short little laugh. Wow, so formal. A lawyer, really? I didn't answer, I just nodded, because the truth was, I didn't trust myself to speak yet, not without emotion leaking out, and I couldn't afford that. She leaned in slightly, dropped her voice like she was trying to sound intimate. "Come on, we don't need him here. It's just a conversation, right?" But I knew better. Everything with her was calculated. Friendly tone, soft eyes, but underneath it all, the setup was already in motion. I could feel it. Thomas didn't even blink. He just said, "We'll proceed if you're comfortable, otherwise we can reschedule." His tone was professional but firm, like he'd done this dance before. She sighed and sat back. Fine. Then came the silence, that awkward stretch of quiet where no one wants to go first. And then, just like I expected, she pulled out the guilt card. "I just thought maybe we could talk like adults, without lawyers, without microphones." I said, "You know exactly why he's here." Her face tightened, barely a flicker, but I caught it. That flash of frustration when she realized the old tricks weren't working anymore. "Okay," she said, "you want honesty. Here it is. You hurt me. You abandoned me, and then you acted like I was the crazy one. I kept my voice steady. You tried to ruin my life." She laughed again, this time louder, sharper, because I wanted answers, because I needed closure. Thomas clicked something on his phone. I knew he was marking the time. She didn't notice. She was too busy performing. "You ghosted me," she went on. "You made me feel like garbage, and then you just disappeared. So yeah, maybe I said some things. Maybe I overreacted, but false accusations. Are you serious?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and throw every email, every voicemail, every whisper campaign she'd started right in her face. But I didn't, because the whole point of this was not reacting. The whole point was letting the truth speak for itself. "Thomas spoke for me. You contacted my client's employer multiple times, claimed he had assaulted you. You submitted false statements. That's why we're here." Her smile faltered. For a second, she looked like she might cry, but I didn't trust it. I couldn't. I'd seen her cry to get out of tickets, to manipulate friends, to win sympathy from strangers. I'd seen her switch tears on like a faucet. "I was scared," she whispered. "I didn't know how else to get you to listen." And there it was. That tiny confession tucked inside a sob story. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman I used to love. I saw someone who was willing to destroy a person just to feel powerful, just to feel heard. "I did listen," I said. "I listened for months, and you turned that into ammo." Her expression changed. Just like that, the tears vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "You think a little recording's going to protect you?" she asked. "You think people care about facts anymore?" Thomas remained calm. "We have more than one recording. That hit her. I could see it, the slight twitch in her jaw, the way her eyes darted toward the cafe's security camera in the corner. She stood up fast, her chair scraped against the floor. "You're both pathetic," she said. "You think this little performance makes you the victim." I didn't say anything. I just let her words hang there, and then she walked out. No dramatic exit. No screaming fit this time. Just a quiet, seething storm wrapped in expensive perfume. As soon as she left, I exhaled. I hadn't even realized I'd been holding my breath. Thomas stopped the recording and looked at me. "That was everything we needed," he said, "but it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. Because what no one tells you is that proving the truth doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't erase the nights I couldn't sleep, the friendships that turned cold, the hours I spent questioning my own memory, my own sanity. But it was a step, a hard, painful, necessary step. And in that cafe, with my lawyer pressing record and my ex showing the world exactly who she really was, I finally felt like I was starting to take my story back. I never expected it to end like that. Not with sirens. Not with officers standing over our table. Not with her yelling my name as they put her in the back of a cruiser. But maybe I should have, because when someone shows you who they are over and over again, the biggest mistake you can make is hoping they'll suddenly become someone else. A few days after the meeting at the cafe, I got a call from Thomas. His voice was calm, but I could tell something was different. He said, "We need to act on this now, not later. You gave her the chance to walk away. She didn't take it." He'd reviewed everything, the recording from the conversation, the cafe's security footage, and the documentation I'd saved over the last few months, voicemails, emails, screenshots of her trying to poison people against me, and worst of all, the fake police report she filed just weeks before she asked to meet. That was the line she crossed. And now it wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about justice. Thomas filed a motion. He sent everything to the right channels, and within days, I got a call from a detective. They wanted a statement. They wanted copies of the recordings. They wanted to know what I knew, and what I had proof of. I gave them everything. It wasn't about revenge. Not for me. It wasn't about winning or getting even. It was about stopping a lie before it became something worse, before someone else got dragged into her spiral, before she had the chance to ruin another life the way she tried to ruin mine. I didn't expect them to act fast, but they did. 1 week later, they asked me to come down to the station. Said they wanted to wrap things up in person. I sat across from 2 officers while they played clips from the cafe, asked clarifying questions, walked me through what would happen next, and then they told me something I didn't expect to hear. "She made another report. Yesterday," one of the officers said. "Claimed you harassed her, followed her home. She said she feared for her safety." I just sat there silent, because now it was clear she wasn't going to stop. She was doubling down, even after getting caught on tape, even after watching her entire performance collapse. But this time, she picked the wrong moment, because what she didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly expected, was that I wasn't the only one who had been documenting everything. The coffee shop owner, Lucas, he'd saved multiple angles of the surveillance footage. The lawyer, he'd written a full statement within hours of the meeting. And the cherry on top, one of the cafe staff, someone she didn't notice, had been filming on their phone, just in case things got messy, and they did. The police took it all, reviewed everything. Then, just like that, they moved forward. It wasn't a grand arrest. It didn't happen in the middle of the night, but it was public. She had just finished brunch with a friend. When the officers approached her, calmly, professionally, they didn't make a scene. She did. According to witnesses, she yelled my name, said I set her up, that I was a liar, that I destroyed her life, but no one was listening anymore, because the truth was louder. Now, I got the news from Thomas. They took her in, he said. Charges are being filed. False reporting, defamation, harassment, possibly more, depending on how far this goes. I just sat there, holding my phone, trying to process it. For so long, I'd lived in fear of what she might say, what she might do. The idea that at any moment she could tell a story that would turn my world upside down. And now, that fear was finally over. But strangely, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, relieved, sure. But tired. Because being falsely accused doesn't just damage your reputation, it eats at your soul. It makes you question everything: your judgment, your memory, your worth. You stop trusting people, you stop trusting yourself, but slowly, piece by piece, that trust starts to come back. It's not easy, but it's possible, and for me, it started the moment she was no longer in control of the narrative. The truth didn't just protect me, it freed me, and all I had to do was let it speak.